Imagine walking into a boardroom on Sand Hill Road today.
Oh boy. Pitching to a room full of Silicon Valley venture capitalists.
Exactly. So you walk in, you set up your pitch deck, and you tell them, here is the strategy for my brand new supermarket concept.
I can already hear the groans.
Right. You say to them, we are going to build absolutely no proprietary app.
I don't know.
We are going to offer zero delivery. We will actually explicitly ban Instacart from our stores.
They would probably think it's a prank.
It gets worse. You tell them, we will refuse to collect customer data, we won't have a loyalty program, and oh, we will never, ever offer a digital coupon.
Yeah, you would be laughed out of the room before you even finished your coffee.
Totally. They would tell you that it is, unmitigated business suicide in the modern era.
Without a doubt.
And yet, doing exactly that has built a multi-billion-dollar empire.
A massive empire.
With a cult following so intense that other retailers literally spend millions of dollars trying to reverse engineer it.
And they usually fail.
They usually fail. So today, we are doing a deep dive into the ultimate retail anomaly.
It genuinely defies, the gravity of the modern economy.
It really does.
Because we just assume the only way to survive retail today is to digitize, track, optimize, and basically monetize every single micro interaction.
Every click, every step down an aisle.
Exactly. But this company proves the conventional wisdom completely wrong.
And we are, of course, talking about Trader Joe's.
The one and only.
The one and only. So our mission today is to unpack how a massive grocery chain actively ignores, like, almost every modern rule of retail, yet somehow maintains an absolute stranglehold on the hearts, minds, and wallets of its customers.
A fascinating paradox.
It is. And to do this, we are pulling from a really phenomenal piece of source material. It's a detailed case study.
Really detailed.
Yeah, it's titled The Trader Joe's Way to Success. And it was published in the Journal of Values-Based Leadership.
Great journal.
Authored by Rich K. Ike and Joan Taylor Cummings-Ike.
And, it is really worth establishing who these authors are right up front.
Yeah, give us some context on them.
Because they aren't just, like food critics reviewing the frozen aisle or something.
Right. They aren't ranking the mac and cheese.
Exactly. They are veteran students of leadership and organizational psychology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They have spent their entire careers looking under the hood of highly successful, values-driven companies.
Okay, like who?
So think Patagonia, Zingerman's Deli in Michigan, Meijer Superstores, and even the Chelsea Milling Company.
Wait, who are they?
Oh, they're the people who make GFFY mix.
Oh, the little blue boxes.
Yes, the little blue boxes.
Yeah.
So the point is, they look for the invisible architecture that makes a corporate culture actually tick.
The underlying DNA.
Precisely. And out of all the businesses they could have put under the microscope, they chose to focus on Trader Joe's.
Which sets the stakes perfectly for this deep dive.
It really does.
Because before we get into, the bizarre history or the psychology of the store layout, I want you, yes, you listening right now, to think about your own daily habits.
That's a good exercise.
Think about the companies you actually feel loyalty toward.
Real loyalty.
Right. Not the ones you use just because you have to or because they're the only option in your town, but the ones you genuinely like. What actually makes them favorite-worthy?
It's tough to pin down.
It is, because convenience is incredibly cheap these days.
Any algorithm can offer convenience.
Exactly. But a specific feeling,
Yeah.
a sense of trust that is incredibly hard to manufacture at scale.
And that distinction, the difference between convenience and trust, that is the entire foundation of the Trader Joe's model.
They just choose a different path entirely.
They absolutely sacrifice the former to absolutely dominate the latter.
So let's start right there with those sacrifices, because looking at this from a purely logistical standpoint, I get completely stuck.
On the e-commerce stuff.
Yes. The authors point out that Trader Joe's famously refuses to sell products online. Zero delivery.
It's wild.
They don't engage with Yelp, they aren't on Amazon, and as I mentioned earlier, they literally ban third-party services.
They will not let Instacart shoppers operate as a business in their stores.
To me, it just feels like they're leaving, billions of dollars on the table.
It definitely looks that way from the outside.
It is like a modern restaurant refusing to use a walk-in freezer. It just seems stubbornly inefficient.
Well, it does seem stubborn. But it is a highly calculated, principled stubbornness.
Okay, unpack that for me. Because the math just doesn't seem to work in the 2020s.
Right. So the case study breaks down the mechanics of this refusal. And it all comes down to quality control.
Quality control of the food.
Well, Yes, but more specifically, it's about brand attribution psychology.
Brand attribution psychology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Trader Joe's leadership understands this fundamental flaw in the modern gig economy. The moment a business farms out its services to a third party, they basically forfeit control of the customer's emotional experience.
Okay, wait, let me play that out. So if I order groceries through an app
Mm-hmm.
and the gig worker who delivers my food is, I don't know, having a terrible day, or they script my bread, or they leave my paper bags out in the rain,
Exactly. What happens in your brain?
my brain doesn't just blame the app. I unconsciously associate that negative, frustrating experience with the brand of the food itself.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Human memory just doesn't compartmentalize the supply chain like that.
That makes total sense. I'm mad at the squished box, so I'm mad at Trader Joe's.
If you open a crushed box of their crackers, you are annoyed at them. And they know this.
So they just opt out of the whole system.
They believe that outsourcing delivery inherently cheapens the shopping experience they have spent decades meticulously crafting.
Wow.
Yeah, they demand direct physical contact with the customer inside the brick-and-mortar store.
Because that is the only environment they can actually control.
Right. It's the only place where they can guarantee the sensory input you receive. They want you in their ecosystem, interacting with their specific employees.
They refuse to export that magic into a soggy cardboard box.
Delivered by a stressed-out third-party driver. Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. They are fiercely protecting the brand equity by refusing to let anyone else handle it.
It's all about control of the vibe, honestly.
But they don't just reject e-commerce. They actually reject the entire financial pricing model of modern grocery stores.
This is one of the most interesting parts of this study.
Right, like there are no sales, no coupons, no discounts.
No loyalty membership cards on your keychain.
And the authors note there are no glitzy promotions whatsoever.
And to really understand this, we have to look at how standard grocery stores operate.
How so?
Well, the entire grocery industry is basically built on the psychology of the deal.
Oh, like the gamification of shopping?
Yeah. Yes. They treat shoppers like gamblers at a slot machine. They force you to hunt for that little dopamine hit of a BOGO deal.
Buy one, get one free.
Right. Making you clip digital coupons, making you download proprietary apps, trading your phone number just to get the quote-unquote member price.
It is honestly exhausting.
It is.
You walk into a normal supermarket and the yellow tag says, $4.99, but then you look closer and it's only $4.99 if you buy 3 of them.
And only if you scan the specific barcode on your app.
Right, and otherwise it's like $7.99. You feel like you were actively being tricked if you just want to buy a single box of cereal.
It creates a really subtle but super pervasive adversarial relationship between the store and the shopper.
Adversarial is the perfect word for it. You are always on guard.
Always wondering if you're getting ripped off or missing a deal.
So how does Trader Joe's bypass that?
They just unplug the slot machine entirely.
Just opt out.
Yeah. Their website bluntly states, "We have low prices every day."
No asterisks.
No asterisks, no hoops to jump through. By eliminating what the authors call these couponing wars, Trader Joe's trades the cheap thrill of a discount for the long-term peace of mind of a flat, fair price.
It fundamentally changes the shopper's posture when they walk in.
You aren't on the defensive anymore.
No, it communicates a deep level of respect for the customer's time and really their intelligence.
You don't need a little plastic loyalty card when the loyalty is organically generated through actual trust.
And the customers seem to recognize this intuitively.
They absolutely do. The text points out that shoppers don't clamor for coupons because they already know the everyday prices are lower than the premium competitors anyway.
That baseline trust just frees up the customer's cognitive load.
To actually just enjoy looking at the food.
Right. But, okay, if you are going to remove the slot machine mechanics and you are going to force people to actually leave their houses, drive to a physical location, and fight for a parking spot.
Or the parking lots.
Let's be honest, Trader Joe's parking lots are notoriously chaotic.
It's basically a meme at this point.
Truly. So if you are demanding that much effort from a modern consumer, that in-store experience has to carry a massive burden.
It has to be spectacular.
Because otherwise people just revert back to the convenience of an app, squish bread or not.
Exactly. Which brings us to the operational core of the company. Because you cannot execute a spectacular physical retail experience without spectacularly engaged people.
The human element.
Yes.
Okay, so this brings us to the radical employees first philosophy. This is heavily detailed in the study, and it all traces back to the founder, Joe Coulombe.
A fascinating guy.
He passed away in 2020 at the age of 89, but the DNA he injected into the company is just
He
wild.
wasn't just, a guy who liked groceries,
Right. He got his MBA at Stanford,
right?
and he was deeply influenced by the writings of Peter Drucker.
Who is widely considered the father of modern management thinking.
So how did Drucker influence a grocery store?
Well, Drucker's theories are crucial here. Before Drucker, coming out of the Industrial Revolution management philosophy, largely viewed employees as just cogs in a machine.
They were just overhead.
Exactly. A cost to be minimized at all times. Drucker flipped that entirely.
He introduced the concept of the knowledge worker,
He
right?
did. He argued that people are an organization's only true appreciating asset. Not the supply chain, not the real estate, not the tech. The human beings.
And Coulombe just absorbed this philosophy entirely.
He used it as the absolute bedrock for building Trader Joe's.
The source material actually brings in this fantastic quote from Sir Richard Branson that really crystallizes how Coulombe operated.
The great quote.
Branson famously said, "Customers do not come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of our customers."
Now, a lot of companies will slap a quote like that on a break room poster and call it a day.
Totally. They talk about being a quote-unquote family.
Right, which usually means they expect you to work weekends for free.
Exactly. But the authors of the case study are explicit here. At Trader Joe's, this isn't just corporate rhetoric.
No, it is the literal blueprint for their operational strategy.
It is applied rigorously as a mechanism for sustained competitive advantage.
So let's break down the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
Because valuing employees sounds really nice in theory, but how does it actually manifest on the floor?
Well, Coulombe's absolute cardinal principle was to pay an industry-leading wage and benefit package.
You want the best people. You have to write the checks to prove it.
Exactly. They pay significantly above minimum wage, they offer robust health benefits, and they contribute heavily to retirement plans.
Even for part-time crew members, which is huge in retail.
It's basically unheard of.
But we have to ask how they afford to do that while keeping the prices on the shelves so low. How does the math work?
This is where the business model loops back on itself.
Yes, because they don't spend millions on traditional advertising.
Right.
Because they don't have the overhead of complex e-commerce logistics.
No server farms, no delivery fleets.
And crucially, because roughly 80% of their products are private label, meaning they completely bypass those massive slotting fees that big brands charge to be on supermarket shelves.
They just take all that diverted capital and pump it directly into employee compensation.
Exactly, which yields an incredible return on the floor.
Because when employees feel genuinely financially secure and valued, they actually have the emotional bandwidth to care about the person walking down the aisle.
It's not rocket science, but it is rare.
Which brings me to a detail in the case study that made me literally stop and reread it.
Oh, the John Shields thing.
Yes, it's about Coulombe's successor, the former CEO, John Shields. The text notes that Shields had a strict rule. He wouldn't hire a job applicant if they didn't smile within the first 30 seconds of an interview.
30 seconds. It's a very specific, fascinating metric.
I have to push back on this a little, though, because when I first read that, it felt a little dystopian to me.
Like mandatory corporate cheerfulness.
Exactly. Like forcing employees to perform mandatory joy just to get a paycheck. How do they ensure that doesn't just result in a store full of fake Stepford Wives-style customer service robots?
That is a very fair critique. It can definitely read that way. But it fundamentally misunderstands what they're actually screening for.
Okay, what are they screening for then?
They aren't demanding a fake performance. They are filtering for baseline temperament.
Baseline temperament.
Yeah. Retail is inherently stressful. It just is. If someone is naturally guarded or adversarial in the first 30 seconds of a low-stakes interview conversation.
They are going to struggle when a customer is screaming about a discontinued item.
Exactly. The company's logic is this. You can teach literally anyone how to stock a shelf.
Right.
You can teach them how to work a cash register or how to ring a bell. You cannot teach an adult how to be naturally gregarious and empathetic.
You either have it or you don't.
Right. So by filtering aggressively for natural extroversion and warmth up front, they don't have to spend any time policing emotional labor later.
Oh, that reframes it completely.
Right.
They are hiring for emotional intelligence so they can let the employees off the leash once they're on the floor.
That's exactly it.
Think about how this plays out in real life. If you are wandering the aisles, looking a little lost, trying to find, the everything but the bagel seasoning,
A classic.
right? And you ask a crew member for help. They don't just point vaguely to aisle 4 and walk away.
No, they will physically drop the box they are unpacking
Literally drop it.
and walk you all the way across the store to the product.
And usually start chatting with you about their personal favorite way to use it on avocado toast.
And what this case study reveals is that this entire interaction is mathematically engineered.
It is not a happy accident.
No. They filter for natural joy. They compensate that joy with industry-leading wages to remove financial stress.
And then they culturally empower that person to prioritize the human interaction over the physical task of stocking the shelf.
It is a systemic, highly funded approach to empathy.
Wow.
You just cannot fake that at scale across hundreds of stores unless the foundation is structurally sound.
So we have this highly vetted, well-compensated crew. Now we have to look at the stage they are actually acting on.
The physical environment,
Because the architecture of a Trader Joe's is completely distinct.
very distinct.
If you are going to remove the friction, or rather, if you are going to remove the convenience of the modern digital world, the physical space has to be incredibly intentional.
It has to pull you in.
Let's talk about the aesthetic, the nautical theme.
The Hawaiian shirts, the maritime nomenclature,
Where did that even come from? Because it seems so random for a grocery store.
it really does. But it is deeply rooted in 1960s California culture.
Okay.
The aesthetic actually originated from a Polynesian-themed restaurant and bar concept called Trader Vic's.
Oh, Trader Vic's.
Yeah, it was massively popular at the time for offering a sort of faux exotic escapism.
People loved tiki bars back then.
Exactly. Joe Coulombe saw the psychological appeal of that escapism. He took the tiki theme, slapped his own name on it, making it Joe's, and created a brand identity that immediately signaled something specific to the shopper.
Which is?
That this is not your standard sterile supermarket. You are going on a voyage of discovery.
They really commit to the bit, too.
They absolutely do.
The store manager is literally called the captain.
And the assistant manager is the first mate.
And the employees are merchant crew members. But what I find fascinating is how this theme actually solves logistical retail problems.
Right. It's not just dressing. It has utility. Let's look at the bell system.
Yes, the bells.
The author of the study, Rich Ike, notes his own background as a former U.S. Navy enlisted man and naval officer.
Oh, cool.
And he writes about how he personally relates to their use of a physical brass ship's bell to communicate across the store.
Instead of a blaring PA system.
Exactly. Think about the psychological difference there.
In a normal big box store, you are peacefully shopping, looking at apples, and suddenly the music cuts out, and a harsh, static-filled voice screams, "Clean up on aisle 6, price check on register 4."
It spikes your cortisol instantly.
It totally shatters the atmosphere.
The bell system bypasses that entirely.
How does it actually work?
One ring means they need to open another register. 2 rings means someone needs help at the checkout, like bagging. 3 rings is for a manager.
It is analog, it is charming, and it conveys logistical information without disrupting the shopper's sensory experience.
Speaking of sensory experiences, the study highlights a very deliberate choice that hits you the literal second you walk through the automatic doors.
The flowers.
Yes, the flowers.
Cheap, colorful, fresh-cut flowers, like bright yellow sunflowers placed right at the entrance.
This is pure sensory psychology.
Because you just survived the stressful parking lot.
You're probably sweating a little.
You are gripping your cart, you walk in, and boom, a wall of vibrant color and a fresh, organic smell.
It acts as an olfactory and visual palate cleanser.
It immediately lowers your blood pressure and transitions you from the chaotic outside world into their curated ecosystem.
And as you move past those flowers, you are hit with another deeply intentional design choice.
The localized art.
Yes. This combats a massive problem for national chains, which is corporate sterility.
The case study has these wonderful visual examples from a specific store in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Oh, those are great pictures.
Right. The store features handmade, hand-painted murals created by the crew members themselves.
Not generic corporate posters shipped from HQ.
No. They have paintings of the Gandhi Dancer train depot from 1881.
Very specific to the area.
And the Big House, which is the massive University of Michigan football stadium. And even the Michigan Union, where JFK launched the Peace Corps idea back in 1960.
This is a brilliant tactic for scaling intimacy.
Scaling intimacy, I like that.
Yeah, because even though Trader Joe's has over 500 locations nationwide, these localized, handcrafted touches make each individual store feel like a true neighborhood market.
It reflects the community's culture right back at them.
making the store feel earned by the town, not by some boardroom in California,
It totally sets the stage for discovery, and that philosophy of discovery extends to the actual products on the shelves, too,
which is their true bread and butter.
because they only carry about 4,006,
Compared to a regular supermarket's like 30,000 to 50,000 skills.
which means every single item has to earn its place. How do they actually choose what to sell?
Well, they reject the passive supply chain model entirely.
Meaning they don't just wait for Kraft or Nabisco to send them new stuff.
Exactly. They don't just sit back and accept whatever the massive global food conglomerates push on them. Instead, they send a highly specialized group of buyers traveling the globe.
Like actual food explorers.
Literally. They are hunting for unique flavor profiles, trending ingredients, and cultural staples that haven't really hit the American mainstream yet.
And then what?
They bring those concepts back. They conduct extensive, secretive internal product testing at their headquarters.
Sounds like Willy Wonka's factory.
It kind of is. And if an item prevails in testing, they launch it.
And when they launch it, they don't buy a multi-million-dollar Super Bowl ad.
No, they rely on their quirky little physical newsletter, the Fearless Flyer.
Which is an absolute masterpiece of anti-marketing marketing.
It truly is. Have you ever read one?
Yes. It reads like a Victorian catalog written by a food-obsessed comedian.
It is incredibly text-heavy, weirdly formatted, uses clip art.
And people absolutely devour it.
Because it treats the customer as an intelligent co-conspirator. It doesn't scream, "BY this now."
Right. It tells a weird little story about how they found a specific type of dark chocolate almond in a small village in Belgium.
And because they keep a tight inventory, new items are introduced constantly, and older ones are ruthlessly discontinued.
Which creates a psychological sense of scarcity.
Yes. If you see something cool, you have to buy it now because it might be gone next week.
Every grocery run becomes a literal treasure hunt.
Let's ground this in some specific examples the case study highlights. The reusable grocery bags, for instance.
Oh, they are a cultural phenomenon.
They really are. They feature hyper-localized designs, like Maryland crabs, Washington, D.C. monuments.
I think there was a Virginia ham and mustard motif mentioned.
Yeah, and Southern California surfboards. People literally collect and trade them online.
And of course, we cannot talk about their products without mentioning the absolute undisputed champion of their merchandising.
$2 Chuck.
$2 Chuck.
Charles Shaw wine. Originally priced at $1.99 a bottle, or roughly $23.88 for an entire case.
It perfectly encapsulates the entire Trader Joe's promise, right? High quality, impossibly low price, no gimmicks, accessible luxury.
You can buy a legitimately great bottle of wine with the spare change in your cup holder.
It's amazing. But this is where we have to pivot.
Oh, yes. A plot twist.
Because the story takes a turn that I find absolutely fascinating if we step back and look at the whole picture we've painted so far.
This highly curated, deeply American, local-feeling neighborhood store.
With its $2 Chuck, its Michigan football murals, its Hawaiian shirts, and its Peter Drucker employee philosophy, it actually harbors a shocking hidden European origin story.
Yes.
When I read the section of the case study, I was genuinely confused at first.
It reads like a geopolitical financial thriller.
It really does. How on earth does a California tiki-themed grocery store connect to a secretive German billionaire? Break this timeline down for me.
Okay, buckle up. We have to start with the birth of the hard discount retail model in post-war Germany.
Okay, post-WWII.
We are talking about the Albrecht brothers, Theo and Karl. In the devastated economy of post-WWII Germany, these brothers took over their mother's small grocery store.
And what did they do differently?
They revolutionized retail by inventing the absolute bare-bones discount model. They stripped out all overhead, sold staples directly from shipping pallets, and ruthlessly cut prices.
Just extreme efficiency.
Yes, and they called it Aldi.
Wait, Aldi, like the stores we have now?
Yes, Aldi is actually a portmanteau of Albrecht Discount.
Wow, I had no idea.
And it was wildly successful. They built a staggering $40 billion global empire on this model.
But then something went wrong.
A massive schism occurred between the brothers. And it wasn't over real estate acquisitions or global expansion strategy.
What was it over?
They split this $40 billion empire into two entirely separate legal entities, Aldi Nord and Aldi Sud, over a fierce, irreconcilable disagreement about a single merchandising decision.
Which was?
Whether or not to sell cigarettes in the stores.
That is staggering. A family argument over cigarettes physically divided a global retail empire.
Yep. So Theo took control of Aldi Nord and Karl took Aldi Sud.
Okay.
And crucially, Carl's half Aldi Sud included the expansion rights to the United Kingdom, Australia, and the U.S. markets.
Which locked Theo out of bringing his Aldi stores to America.
Exactly. But the story takes a much darker turn for Theo here.
Oh.
In 1971, Theo Albrecht was kidnapped at gunpoint.
Why?
Yes. He was held for ransom for 17 days in a wardrobe in Germany.
The psychological trauma of that must have been immense.
It completely changed him. After his release, they paid a massive ransom. He understandably lived the rest of his life in extreme, heavily guarded seclusion.
I don't blame him.
He never gave interviews and barely appeared in public ever again. Yet, his business ambitions remained.
He still wanted to expand.
Right. Because his brother Carl controlled the American Aldi rights, Theo needed a legal loophole to establish a physical retail foothold in the United States.
So he looks across the ocean, finds a quirky little chain of tiki-themed grocery stores in California, and buys it.
Exactly. In 1979, the Albrecht family, via a highly private trust, buys Trader Joe's from Joe Coulombe.
It was just a strategic acquisition to bypass his brother's territorial rights.
Yes.
The cognitive dissonance of this is just wild to me.
It is so funny to think about.
Right? The next time you walk into a Trader Joe's to buy some organic hummus, and a guy named Dave in a Hawaiian shirt rings a brass bell with a big smile.
You have to realize the entire operation is bankrolled by an incredibly secretive German family trust.
Born out of a post-war cigarette feud and a traumatic kidnapping. It sounds completely made up.
It really represents a massive contrast between the warm, transparent, hyper-local front-of-house vibe and the deeply private international corporate structure holding the purse strings.
It's basically two different worlds.
It is. Now, the authors of the study are careful to clarify a vital point here.
What's that?
Despite this ownership structure, Trader Joe's operates as a completely distinct autonomous entity from Aldi Nord.
So they aren't secretly the exact same company behind the scenes?
No. The Albrechts essentially bought it and just left it alone. They let it run its own culture, leadership, and operational strategies.
They didn't try to strip it for parts or force it into the bare-bones Aldi mold?
Thankfully, no.
But, time marches on. Theo Albrecht passed away in 2010, and the visionary founder Joe Coulombe passed away in 2020.
Right.
That brings us to the present day. The architects are gone. So who is steering the ship now? And more importantly, what kind of storms are they sailing into?
Because no business, no matter how beloved, is immune to the friction of scaling.
Exactly.
The source material details a massive definitive leadership shift that occurred very recently in July 2023 at their headquarters in Monrovia, California.
Right. Brian Palbaum took over as chairman and CEO, and John Basilone stepped in as vice chairman and president.
The crucial detail here is that both of these men are 20-plus year veterans of the company.
Oh, that's good. So they're outsiders.
Right. This isn't a scenario where an external corporate raider or some private equity firm came in to squeeze margins.
Thank goodness.
This is an internal passing of the torch to leaders who theoretically have those Coulombe and Drucker values deeply ingrained in their professional DNA.
But the authors of our case study, Rich and Joan Ike, are veteran analysts. They aren't just here to praise the company blindly.
No, they see real systemic threats on the horizon.
They call them storm clouds. What exactly are they warning this new leadership about?
Well, they identify a few key vulnerabilities. First is emulation.
Emulation, people copying them.
Exactly. When you are the absolute standard bearer for a specific type of retail, you have a massive target on your back. Larger, heavily funded competitors are constantly trying to reverse engineer and replicate Trader Joe's most successful practices.
Like their curated private labels.
Yes, and their smaller store footprints. They do this to try and erode Trader Joe's market share.
You definitely see that. Every major chain now has a quirky, organic private label line trying to capture that magic. What else?
They also note a perceived operational secrecy, which is likely a cultural hangover from that Albrecht influence.
Ah, the reclusive billionaires.
Right, and a lack of visible, large-scale community development initiatives. But crucially, the most pressing, immediate storm cloud they identify is increasing unionization efforts among the crew members.
Which, at the time this study was written, 4 locations had successfully unionized.
Yes.
Okay, we need to pause here because this is a massive contradiction.
It really is a paradox.
We just spent a significant portion of this deep dive discussing how this company is a Peter Drucker utopia. Industry-leading wages, great benefits, filtering for joy, empowering the employees. If they're the absolute gold standard for how to treat retail workers, why on earth is there a push for unionization?
It is the ultimate paradox of scaling a bespoke culture.
Scaling a bespoke culture.
Yeah. When you have 50 stores,
Mm,
the CEO can theoretically know every captain.
right. It's intimate.
But when you have 563 stores across the country, bureaucracy inevitably creeps in.
It has to.
The push for unionization implies that as the company has scaled, some of that intimate, empowering culture is fraying at the edges.
That makes total sense.
Or, at the very least, in a volatile post-pandemic economic climate, some employees feel that relying on the quote-unquote goodwill of corporate leadership just isn't enough anymore.
They need formal, legally binding representation to protect their benefits.
Exactly.
The culture is cracking under the weight of its own size.
Yes.
And this is exactly why I loved the prescription the authors offer to the new leadership. They don't just point out the unionization thread and say, good luck.
No, they offer a highly tactical, psychological solution for Pelbaum and Basilone.
And their first piece of advice is so simple, but so profound. Do not rely on formal, anonymous corporate surveys to gauge employee morale.
Because anonymous surveys are where corporate culture goes to die.
Wow.
They can be gamed, they lack nuance, and middle management can easily filter out the truly damning feedback before it ever reaches the CEO's desk.
It's just an illusion of listening.
Right. Instead, they advise the new leaders to utilize the physical analog approach that built the company in the first place.
What do they suggest?
They suggest sending personal, physical letters to store managers, the captains across the country, inviting them to the headquarters in Monrovia.
But not for a massive stadium-sized town hall where nobody can really speak, right?
No, they recommend small, intimate groups of no more than 20 people at a time,
The authors call these meet, greet, and listen sessions.
with a massive emphasis on the listen part.
Because if the CEO is doing all the talking, it defeats the purpose.
Precisely. The authors state unequivocally that if fear in any form exists within the organization,
Fear of retaliation, fear of speaking up about safety, fear of losing benefits.
it must be completely eradicated. These intimate sessions are designed to bypass those middle management filters.
Employees need to sit across the table from the CEO and feel totally empowered to discuss compensation, workplace safety, internal communications, branding, and the ground-level shopper experience.
But the authors stress that this cannot just be a corporate venting session that results in a pizza party.
Right, nothing is worse than that.
There has to be a tangible, visible feedback loop. The leadership has to actually implement changes based on these conversations.
And then aggressively communicate those implementations back to the managers.
This circles perfectly back to the foundational philosophy. If you lose touch with the crew members who are physically ringing the bell, stocking the shelves, and wearing the Hawaiian shirts,
You lose the entire value proposition of the company.
the culture isn't a poster in the break room. It is a daily, living practice that requires constant maintenance.
So that is the internal cultural challenge for the new leadership. But beyond internal employee relations, there is a massive external global challenge that they must face.
Yes, looking outward.
And the authors argue that Trader Joe's is actually uniquely positioned to tackle this challenge, specifically because of who is walking through their doors every day.
We are talking about the sustainability imperative.
Let's look at the demographic data the source provides. The typical Trader Joe's shopper is highly specific.
Extremely specific.
They are generally younger, married, college-educated, technologically competent, and earning over $80,000 a year.
It is an incredibly desirable, high-leverage demographic for any retailer.
But the authors make a crucial sociological point about this specific group. This is a demographic that heavily believes in science.
Right.
They are deeply existentially concerned about the climate crisis, and their children will be even more militant about it.
It is a core value for them.
Because of this, the authors argue that Trader Joe's has a massive opportunity, an absolute imperative, really, to make environmental sustainability its defining legacy for the next decade.
Their core audience is practically begging them to lead on this issue.
They don't have to convince their shoppers that climate change is real. They just have to provide the solutions.
And to be fair to Trader Joe's, the text notes what they are already doing well. They aren't starting from zero.
No, they are taking tangible steps. Like they are actively phasing out excess plastics in their packaging.
Which is huge for grocery stores.
They are eliminating styrofoam entirely, and they are moving away from harmful CO2 refrigerants in their stores.
And there's one statistic that really stands out.
Oh, this absolutely floored me. They donate nearly 100% of their perfectly edible but unsold food to food banks and charities.
Executing that level of food recovery across 500-plus locations is an incredible logistical and financial commitment.
It is staggering, but the authors argue that doing okay isn't enough for a company with this much cultural capital.
They need to aim higher.
They challenged the new leadership to look to companies like Patagonia, which, remember, these authors have studied extensively as a true North model.
They want Trader Joe's to aggressively align their operations with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by the end of the decade.
Which means moving beyond just recycling cardboard, right?
Yes, looking at the total life cycle of their global supply chain, fair trade labor practices, and true carbon neutrality.
They want them to evolve from being a quirky grocery store into being a non-state actor driving legitimate global environmental change.
That is a massive pivot in ambition.
It is, and the text brings in this beautiful, highly relevant quote from Ray Anderson to frame this ambition.
Remind me who Ray Anderson is.
He was the founder of a modular carpet manufacturer called Interface Inc.
Ah, right.
And he was an absolute pioneer in the green business movement. Anderson's guiding philosophy was simple: brighten the corner where you are.
Right in the corner where you are. That is profound.
And the study points out that as of late 2023, Trader Joe's operates on 563 neighborhood corners across the United States.
Exactly. They aren't a singular, monolithic factory hidden away in an industrial park somewhere.
No.
They are deeply embedded in 563 specific, localized communities.
So if they utilize that decentralized, localized network to enact massive environmental change, whether through hyperlocal agricultural sourcing, zero-waste store initiatives, or aggressive community education, they can have an exponential radiating impact on the environment.
It's a very inspiring vision for what a grocery store can actually be.
Okay, let's take a breath and recap the incredible, contradictory journey we've just been on.
It's been a ride.
We started by looking at a quirky, Polynesian-themed California store born in 1967.
A store that is fueled, completely unexpectedly, by the wealth of a reclusive German billionaire trust born out of a family feud.
Right. A company shaped by a relentless, Peter Drucker-inspired employee-first mandate that filters for emotional joy and pays industry-leading wages to maintain the soul of its stores.
And perhaps most radically, a brand that flat-out rejects the entire modern playbook of e-commerce, apps, and convenience, simply to protect the psychological integrity of its physical shopping experience.
It is the definition of a unicorn.
Without a doubt.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final implication drawn from this text that we really need to talk about.
Okay.
A provocative thought to leave you mulling over the next time you grab a cart and walk past those flowers.
Let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time in segment 1 discussing how Trader Joe's refuses to use third-party apps, loyalty cards, or e-commerce, and we said they do that to control the quality of the brand experience.
That is their stated logistical reason, yes. Brand protection and quality control.
But I want you to look deeper at the unintended societal result of that business decision.
The societal result.
Yes. We live in an era defined by absolute surveillance capitalism.
Oh, totally.
Every other major retailer on Earth is aggressively, relentlessly harvesting your data.
They track your eye movements on their apps. They monitor your exact purchase history.
They build a demographic profile of your household, and they sell that profile to third-party advertisers.
They monetize your digital habits through those seemingly innocent loyalty apps.
Standard grocery stores basically treat you as a data mine. You trade your fundamental privacy for a 50-cent digital coupon on yogurt.
It has become the invisible, accepted cost of participating in the modern economy.
Exactly. But because Trader Joe's is so fiercely analog, because they stubbornly refuse to track you online, refuse to offer a proprietary app, and refuse to implement loyalty cards.
They have accidentally turned their physical stores into rare digital sanctuaries.
Yes, a digital sanctuary.
That is a profound way to frame it.
By refusing to optimize your data for profit, they have inadvertently built a psychological safe haven.
When you walk through those automatic doors, you aren't a digital data point to be squeezed by an algorithm.
You are just a human being. It proves that sometimes the absolute ultimate business innovation, the most radical, disruptive thing a company can do in the 21st century, is simply leaving a customer's data completely alone, treating them with analog respect, and just selling them a really good, cheap bottle of wine in person.
Their refusal to adapt to the digital age hasn't killed them. It has actually become their greatest, most irreplaceable modern asset.
It really has. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you walk from the chaotic parking lot toward those bright yellow, fresh-cut sunflowers by the front door, I hope you look a little closer.
Look for the invisible architecture.
Yes, the invisible architecture of the culture, the deliberate psychology of the pricing, and the hidden history that makes it all work. We will catch you next time.